Hi everyone and welcome to Our Casa Sweet Casa. Today I'm going to be answering some questions for our Confessions of a Homeschool Mom collaboration tag.
Come on in. Come on in. Come on in to our Casa Sweet Casa.
All right, so this Confessions of a Homeschool Mom collaboration came from Mommy and Mia Homeschool Chronicles, and I just loved the questions that she came up with, and I've loved seeing some of the moms' answers. I love these tags and collaborations because we get to see some questions answered by moms that we look up to and we like to see what they're doing, and I'd love to share how these apply to us. So let's look at these questions. The first question, I have a little paper here. The first question is, how many children do you homeschool and what are their ages? So I homeschool, I have 3 daughters, but I homeschool 2 for now. They are 11 and 7. What is your homeschooling schedule? Do you have a regular school schedule? Do you homeschool year-round, part-time, full-time? We do not homeschool year-round. We kind of do our own schedule. It kind of follows the regular school calendar. Here in Puerto Rico, it's a bit different. Here in Puerto Rico, they have school from August to early December, and then from middle to late January to May, and we kind of tweak it. We always like definitely to keep at least 1 month in the summer free because that's when we get to see extended family that come to visit. So we kind of take it year by year. We don't do a full year-round schedule, but sometimes we extend on a month or some weeks depending on if we have to take a week off in August, because that's what one of our favorite things about homeschooling. We make our own schedule, and if we decide to take a vacation in September, then I compensate in the rest of the calendar. So not year round, we make our own schedule depending on what we have for that year. Do you take a summer break? I kind of talked about that. Or do you have a homeschool summer schedule? Like I said, I kind of got ahead of myself. We at least take a full month in the summer to make sure that we have we always have a very full summer, because that's when we get to see extended family like grandparents, aunts and uncles is in the summer. So we always have a full schedule in the summer, and then we kind of, what was it? Or do you have a homeschool summer schedule? We don't homeschool summer schedule exactly. I like to keep a routine of reading scripture and of having at least a read aloud and some readers for them. And we have different activities and things, but not a formal homeschool schedule in the summer. And definitely at least a month of just time with family and vacation time and whatever comes up. When coming off of summer break, do you find it difficult to get back into your regular homeschool schedule, or do you have a method that helps you ease right into your regular homeschool routine? I don't think we have a lot of problems with getting back into our routine, because I like to at least always in the morning have a bit of a routine. So we just kind of do a more full schedule when the summer break kind of is done. And I don't think we have much problem easing into it. Actually, they just know what's coming and they get right into it. I usually like to get them excited about their new materials and get them involved in what they're going to be doing. So we always have that excitement going in and do a little bit of celebration on our first week and things like that to get them excited for it. But I wouldn't say that we have a lot of trouble getting back into the school mindset. When homeschooling multiple children, what advice can you offer other homeschoolers in regards to teaching and planning for different age levels, including caring for a child who is not at the age to be homeschooled? So like I said, I have 3 girls, 2 that are school age. My third little girl, she was 2 to 3 this past year. And what advice can I give for those with multiple children, different age levels? Well, what we do is we schedule it in. I've learned to adapt as we went along. And what we do is that my girls love to play together. So usually in the morning when there's a better mood, especially for my toddler, we do everything that we do together in the morning. And we usually involve her. Like if we're reading together at the table, she has her Legos or her little blocks, anything that she's doing, and she's listening into what we're reading and discussing. She's just playing at the table with us. Or if we're lying in the bed because we decided to go to my bed for the read aloud, she's there with us. And so she's with us, but doing a little bit something to keep her busy in the morning. And then a little bit later, when we're going to do our individual things, when I need to do math with my 6-year-old, or when I'm going to do English with my 10-year-old, we kind of take turns. And then the one that's not studying with me plays with her little sister. Don't know if that's going to work for everybody, but it's worked for us. She's together with us in the morning when she has a better mood, and then as the morning goes along, we trade off. And when I'm helping one, the other is playing with the little sister, and that's just the benefit of they don't get along all the time, but they get along pretty well, and they like playing with their little sisters. So that's been a great help that we trade off and then keep her busy. And also she's it takes a little bit of time, but she's gotten used to the schedule. She the little one, I mean, she knows that this is what we do in the morning, and then as the day goes along, this is what we're doing. So I would definitely take into account your little one's mood or their nap or whatever their schedule is. Kind of adapt your homeschooling schedule to that and use your bigger kids. That's worked for me at least. So let's see. Has your child or children, have they ever attended public or private school? If yes, what advice can you give other new homeschoolers in regards to helping a child transition from regular school to being homeschooled? Well, I wouldn't say I'm an expert, but I did have this experience. My 2 homeschool girls, they were in private school for their whole life, from pre-K to 1st grade, my middle child, and then my eldest was in private school from pre-K to 4th grade. And so we did have that transition, and this is different for every child. But what really helped a lot was that my girls were so excited about homeschooling. It was their initial idea, actually. They saw another friend, family friend of ours that started homeschooling, and they thought it was a good idea, and they waited patiently while I did my research and made sure that it was something we wanted to do. So when the time came to transition out of school, I spoke about this in another video, but I took them out mid-school year because we thought that there was no reason to keep waiting if we decided that was what was best for us. And we didn't have a tough transition. They were part of my selection of materials. They were part of coming up with our schedule. So I think that's a big part of it. If they're part of what they're going to be using, if they're part of the schedule you're making, when you're going to start, they know what's coming up. They know what they're going to be doing. And we really didn't have a lot of trouble getting out of the homeschool mindset. It was just a relief for us. It was just so great. So if you have a child that you think might have a bit of trouble transitioning from a regular school to homeschool, I would definitely involve them in your decisions for materials and your decision in the scheduling, and just have them be very clear on what you're going to be doing and how it's going to work and why you think it's going to be so good and why it's a good decision for you and your family. Okay. All children are unique learners and have their own learning styles. So when it comes to homeschooling multiple children, do you use the same homeschool approach with each child? Well, the question already says that each child is unique in learning. This applies too. So I think that as a mom, you kind of have to go with your gut and see what learning styles you can use that apply for both or all your children on your together subjects, and then for their individual lessons, what you can tailor to them. For example, both of my girls are very visual, but I knew that my 6-year-old she was very good at mental math and at kind of visualizing math. So I tried to look up a program, and we used Math-UC that would go with this, that she's very good at, and that tailors to that. And then my older one, I knew that she might like something more independent, and that she would like something using the computer, and that kind of guided her through it. And so we used teaching textbooks for her. And so I definitely think that you can do both. You can find programs that work for your children as a whole and do together subjects, and that obviously you can, one of also the best parts of homeschooling is tailoring it to your children, tailoring it to yourself, and how you can help them learn. And so I'd say do both. You can find something that works for all your kids at once, and then you can also find some things on different subjects that works for them individually. When purchasing curriculum, do you make the decision based on age, grade, level, or by your child's academic strengths and weaknesses? Don't know if I mentioned this before in this video, but we are a bilingual homeschool. And when I look up a level for a curriculum, I do both. I look up the grade level, and then I look up the placement tests and the skill tests to see where they would land, especially for language things, since they do most of the subjects in English, because most of the materials or curriculums that I found that I love for them and for me are in English. I definitely have to take account that English is not the first language for choosing materials. So I kind of go by the grade level to start out, and then I always check out the placement tests, and if I'm not sure I have them, take the placement test. And so far it's worked well for us, going by both and taking into account that English is not their first language for all these programs. What coping mechanisms can you share that helps you stay focused when you are faced with an overwhelming day, such as your child not grasping a specific concept or material in a lesson, or if you are unable to grasp the information and find yourself hitting a brick wall and moving forward in a lesson? So we've all been there. We've all had those moments, those days. And I love this question to see what all the other moms are going to answer, because we're always looking for what works for other moms to get new ideas. What coping mechanism helps me when my child is stuck or I am stuck on that day? Well, usually we have to take a step back, and that's another great part of homeschooling. It's so flexible that you can kind of decide. For me, it takes a minute to decide, should I insist on them completing what they're doing and pulling through, and help them, teach them a lesson on being consistent and on doing your best and not just letting it go for later. It's important to me not to have it all the time be, all right, we'll do it later. And sometimes it is a question of, all right, let's stop and just pick up tomorrow. And so that usually takes me a minute to see which of the scenarios it is. When one of us has hit a brick wall, I usually like to stop and talk about what's wrong, or I like to stop and see if I kind of can come up with a better way to get it done. Sometimes this happens, I don't want to call her out, but it happens with my second grader this past year. She would be enjoying a lesson, and suddenly out of nowhere she was done with it. And then I try to put the book away for a second and take out the whiteboard, or put the book away and take out some different material on the same thing, kind of like on the fly, to kind of like move her away from the brick wall and get her moving along. And sometimes, depending on how that day went, or if I know if they were tired, or if there's a reason behind why they've hit this brick wall, I do say, all right, let's go on with something else and we'll continue tomorrow. So the coping mechanism that I used for myself and for them is usually to kind of change the scenario a bit, depending on if we are going to continue it on that same day or in the next day. So that's kind of like I do, recognizing that it's kind of snowballing into a bad situation and then shifting away from it to see if we can save it and finish the day. So from your point of view, what is the hardest thing about homeschooling? And this has to do with the previous question, the hardest thing about homeschooling. It did not surprise me as a homeschooler starting out. I kind of knew that the most difficult thing was going to be managing our attitudes and temperaments. I knew that my girls would never tell a school teacher, I don't want to do that right now, but they would tell me when they didn't want to do something, and then I'd have to help them out with it and also help myself to not lose patience. And that's probably the most difficult thing, keeping our attitudes in check and always keeping a good environment and making sure that we're as happy as can be expected in what we're doing. And I would say that was the difficult part for me. All else, it's kind of been a relief. I do not want to undermine other moms' feelings, or sometimes we're just feeling overwhelmed. But in general, homeschooling, at least for our family and for me as a mom, has been a relief, and in most things. But the most difficult part is that managing those brick walls, like I just talked about, or managing our attitudes, keeping ourselves in a happy demeanor as we go along, depending on how we're feeling for that day. So that's something that we have to work with and come up with different things if we know that that's going to be a little bit tough. So that's my personal answer. What is your own homeschooling philosophy? Well, not sure if for good or bad, but haven't actually sat down to write down a philosophy or a specific mission for what we're doing. I definitely want us to love learning together, basically, and that applies to all things in life. But I want them to learn the academic things that they need, but also how to apply it in moral ways and in spiritual ways, and to love learning in all things. That's what I would say, kind of like at the top of my head, would be our thing, because it just kind of happened naturally for me, even in an environment in the school where I grew up with that was not very flexible or not very into loving learning, just kind of get it over with. And I still loved to learn through my mom, who helped me, and that's kind of like I want to instill in my girls, just to have always curiosity and always want to look into good books and have them be a part of their life. So loving to learn, yeah. Maybe I should sit down and write something formal, but haven't yet. Last question. What is your motivation? What keeps you going and stops you from giving up? Well, we haven't been homeschooling that long, just a year, so this is from a kind of like a newbie point of view. I don't have the experience or lots of years. Not sure if I will experience kind of what they call mom burnout at some point, or like I said, we do have difficult moments and difficult days, but I don't think giving up actually ever crosses my mind, because it has been such an amazing blessing for us and such a relief, such a great change in our family dynamic and schedule, that I don't actually ever have thought of giving up. Yet I'm always talking with my girls about what they want to do, how they feel, how they think it's working. I always like to get feedback for them, and so far none of us has actually thought about ever giving up. But we do need motivation for every day, so I'll talk about my motivation. And my motivation is that I take very seriously, sorry if I get emotional, but I take very seriously that I've been entrusted with these 3 daughters of God to lead them through. And I'm not saying that if your children are in school, you can't take this responsibility seriously, but at least for us, homeschooling has been a big part of really taking into my hands and into my husband's hands our responsibility and how we're guiding them through this life for this time that we have them, and to help them. So I know that my motivation is that I know their potential. I know that they're precious daughters of God, and I want them to reach that potential and do my best to help them. So that really is my motivation, even on days where it's frustrating or a little bit overwhelming. I know that I keep my sights on what I'm trying to plant in them, and how I'm trying to guide them, and hope that someday they can see that I did try my best to teach them in all ways and in all things. So that's kind of my motivation, knowing that they're children of God, and then they were sent as my daughters, and that I'm gonna do my best, even though I'm not perfect and I struggle sometimes, but that's what keeps me in line, just trying to do my best. So these were the questions from the Confessions of a Homeschool Mom collaboration by Mommy and Me Homeschool Chronicles. And thanks again for these questions. Thanks for watching. And if you'd like to join in and answer these questions, I'd love to see your answers. So subscribe and like this video, and I'll keep sharing everything we're doing on this bilingual homeschool journey. And we'll see you next time.